There we go. So I wish I could say this in German, but all of you that are joining from Germany or other German-speaking countries, or outside German-speaking countries that speak German, we have an amazing translator, Ashok, who's going to be translating simultaneously if I don't speak blisteringly fast. And so I'll show again before I start how to connect. Yvonne and Anton, if you unmute, can you tell them maybe a little bit about the weather and things in Lviv?
Yes, sure. Everything is calm over here. No wind at all. The temperature is about +2 degrees Celsius, so not comfortable for sunbathing, but not bad for walking around the city.
Yes, and it's a little bit snowy even.
I had to, I don't know if, nope, another one of our German clients isn't here. I have to like force them to take a vacation. So several of our employees aren't here because I had to make her go away. It was her birthday. And so we said, enough of this, go. So I'll screen share again. So I wanted to go through and talk to you about generally what's happening in Ukraine, but with Ukrainian surrogacy, most blatantly what's changed and what hasn't. First, I need to really acknowledge you all for being here. Surrogacy is never someone's first choice, generally not someone's second or third choice. Anyone that's on this call has suffered a lot of loss and sadness, and it's a testament of your strength and desire to have a family to be here at all. Surrogacy is a really complicated process, and it demands a lot of communication by all parties. It demands a high degree of trust, and with international, it is even more complicated because of distance, languages, and other things that add to the sense of helplessness and concerns. Someone just entered the room. Yvonne, can you let them in? Yani Magu. So a little bit about me. I'm the founder of Delivering Dreams International Surrogacy. I've been working in Ukraine and first Russia since about 1990. My goal has always been with the companies I've had to bridge all my knowledge of how things happen, not only in America, but the West, because I've worked mostly with Europeans, and how the expectations of everything in all ways, communication, quality of service, are important. But all my experience in Eastern Europe, particularly Ukraine, gives me the relationships and the knowledge to really how to get things done on the ground. Because anyone working or experiencing these countries has known that relationships and longevity is very important. I have an apartment in Kiev I've had since 1995. And those of you who know me will say that I consider that probably more of my home than where I am. I lived there for many years permanently. Met my husband, who is an American, on sort of a blind date. And now I go back and forth between where I am now in New Jersey and Ukraine. I've been unable to have children my whole life, and we adopted our son, our beautiful son, who is now 18, from Ukraine. So that shows a little bit about how long I've been there. And when I was there, this is kind of what led me into what I've been doing all the time. When I was there doing our adoption, and it was something I did all myself, we saw a lot of people being taken advantage of that were adopting. When someone asks you, you know, we need another 1,000, we need another 2,000, whatever it is, it was mostly money to finish this process, or there's a problem, and this and that and that. So it's going to take longer. There was no way that couples could simply say, oh, okay, we're going to walk away. So it felt like a way of extortion, and it just felt unfair and wrong. And so I said, this is just the wrong way to work, and this can be done so much better. And we started doing adoption, which led to surrogacy after some of the laws changed, particularly in the US, but also in Ukraine, preventing child trafficking, which made adoption very, very expensive. And in Ukraine, with Ukrainians, which is very good, adopting more and more of their own children, leaving, unfortunately, older and less healthy children available. With surrogacy, couples are able to get very healthy children, and there is an assurance that you will get a child. In adoption, the child has to agree, and sometimes that can be a very scary proposition. So our passion at Delivering Dreams is protecting client rights. And we do that in the same way that we've done, or I've done throughout my businesses, by making sure that the exclusions to any program, you know, what you might have to pay more for, are outlined very clearly. And if they're not on that list, they're included. So it's a very specific list so that you know, because in surrogacy and in pregnancy in general, there's way too much to include. So we can include, here is the main issues, but we could never include everything because it's just absolutely impossible. It would take a whole book. We do offer an insurance option to prevent if you are worried about extreme complications. But our main thing is to protect client rights, to educate you about all steps and what we do. So as a basis for my history, I wanted to create an agency with a unique model, unlike anything out there. So we are US based, but we're a Ukrainian surrogacy agency. So what does that mean? It allows us to have all our agreements under US law in English. This gives you a financial and legal assurances that would be unavailable under, well, first of all, in Ukrainian and under Ukrainian law. Gives you a lot more assurances. In Ukraine, there are two entities, and this is commonly a misunderstanding. So there's two entities involved in every surrogacy. There's an agency and there's a clinic. And sometimes that is all mushed together and not understood because there are different things that an agency can do that a clinic cannot. And for those of you that need just looking at surrogacy, in Ukraine, they use the word clinic for hospitals, medical facilities, fertility centers. The word clinic has been used for all of that, unlike what we do in the rest of the world. So agencies can show pictures of surrogates, background information on donors, all this information. However, clinics can't. And that's just one example. So all the clinics said, all the clinic said, we can do this better, or excuse me, we can do this. We just set up our own agency. So X clinic starts X agency. But the problem is that there is a serious inherent conflict of interest. So if something goes wrong, who are they going to protect? You know, themselves. They're owned by Clinic X. So if you're unhappy with a doctor, you have no choice. You're stuck with that bricks and mortar. And so our business model we set up to be kind of revolutionarily different. We want to align our interests only with you, protect the surrogate, your surrogate, and protect your child. So we've set it up in a way that we lose money if your transfers don't work. We adapt our services and medical care constantly for your unique situation. And we're able to do that by having no one medical facility or clinic that we rely on. This gives us really extraordinary capacities and opportunities that ultimately deliver really safe success. We use specific people, specialists, that's better, in each stage of the process. That means doctors, that means endocrinologists, not clinics. So this allows us to move clinics and move doctors and move areas of the country. And we generally use different doctors for different services. Endocrinologists for creating the embryos, different for transfers, different for that process of pregnancy care, and different for birth. Now, these aren't just any facilities. We have to have them, we call them certified or verified by us. Every 6 months we go in because things change. And we want to make sure that they are at Western standards. And especially after the war, I'll go into this, a lot has changed with the facilities, the doctors, and the background around that. And this capability has allowed us to go with that change. So one of the huge kind of earth-shaking changes, if you will, since the war has been a change in management, medical staff, doctors, support staff in both clinics, agencies, and standards. And we have seen this all across the board. Just a second, I'm going to let someone in here. We have seen huge changes. So doctors have, like even in other countries, they've taken opportunities or changes based on difference in management styles that have come in. Some clinics have actually been sold, or the ownership structure has changed and caused doctors to move. So this has allowed us to move with them, and it has not tied us to that facility at all. Thank goodness. We've also seen a big change in standards. So facilities that were able to do successful transfers have really changed the statistics. And we've kept a lot of eyes on that. So a little bit about doctors and facilities. So we go in about every 6 months. I was in there in October, and we screen them all. We screen the facilities, interview all the doctors, interview all the staff, and generally look at just everything we possibly can. Some people are nervous when I talk about the worst part of the war, but the reason I want to talk about it is not so you worry or are concerned looking forward. I wanted to be able to give you an assurance that no matter what happens, and we've seen, I hope the very worst, that we can have your back and explain what we do so that we can move forward to make sure that you're secure in any situation. So, not just in the invasion in 2014, not just during COVID, and not just since February 24th, we've been able to take care of our surrogates seamlessly. We were the only one that everyone thought we were crazy when we moved our surrogates to Lviv before the war even started. And then when the war moved a little west, we got a little bit nervous and wanted to move ahead of time to Poland. So we have these opportunities because we have clinics. For those of you that don't know, surrogacy is illegal in Poland. However, we do have relationships with doctors and clinics that allowed us to continue those processes very safely and clearly. We were very proud. We never declared force majeure. We moved everyone to Lviv without charging parents anything. The parents for delivering dreams are encouraged to have a relationship with their surrogate. And during all these times, they never lost contact. They were in constant contact with their surrogates. So they were able to be assured, not just by us, but by them, that everything was okay. And I have to say, during even the most frantic periods, our surrogates were the most calm people out of anyone in the world. Maybe a bunch of you have heard us say over and over about the 10 things we look at in a surrogate, their characteristic traits, before we even go through the medical process. And these, number one is calm and positive. And they were so calm, it was almost amazing. So it was a wonderful thing to see, and we were very proud of them and of the selection process. I think it really showed us and the parents that we were doing things right. It was a confirmation. So we never did any force majeure. We continued all the processes throughout that period. We halted new work for about a month and a half. And throughout that period, though, all our surrogates had their medications and everything. I also want to underline that I am so proud of our staff. No one got on a plane, no one flew out, no one ran away. We stayed. There were 2 women we could not evacuate. One was in the process of, was in the very, very last part of her giving a pregnancy and could give birth at any time. And the second, the doctors were concerned about her pregnancy at the beginning and wanted to make absolutely sure nothing would happen. So they had said we couldn't move her to Lviv. So she was in Sumy, which was Russian occupied pretty much from day one. And it took us a few weeks, but we are so thrilled that we were able to get her out safely, her and her daughter. Because when we ask surrogates to move, and they're aware that we can ask them to move and they have to agree to that, they are allowed to take family and friends. Some of them choose not to, some of them choose to, but we're not going to cut them off from their family if they want to bring that. And that's one of the things we do in our screening as well, is to make sure they have that support. But just a little note on our Sumy person, during that time, there was a lot of, there's no other word for it, extortion going on. And the prices people were charging for evacuating people from dangerous areas were insane, starting at $3,000 and up. And we were able to get her out for $450 and very, very safely. And I think this is a testament to our belief that it's all about protecting you both financially and in terms of medically and success of your surrogate. So we restarted in April. And at that point, we were very concerned about the changes in standards. We were concerned about labs. We were concerned about doctors, procedures, everything, just because people were starting up and everyone was moving quickly. And we weren't sure everyone was prepared and everything was up to top standard. So what we did was to make sure we did kind of blind testing. So we retested all of our surrogates that had been in the process at several clinics with different doctors and sent their results to several different labs. So in this way, we were able to confirm the level of treatment or the level of information to make absolutely sure that these labs and these facilities were staying up to par. We didn't charge the clients for any of this, and we didn't charge we didn't charge you for the additional testing. We had to retest all our surrogates after the war, and we test all our surrogates right up to the time of transfer. A couple of surrogates decided not to go forward for family reasons, relocation reasons, but we changed those surrogates to others, and again, that was at no cost. We really felt that the war was, yes, it is a force majeure, but it was something that we needed to work through with everyone and not punish our families for. They've been through enough. So we changed, in a couple of cases, also our donors. Now, what hasn't changed is we still keep our surrogates way out of danger zones. And we did this well before the beginning of this kind of escalation on February. We've always kept them out of the East. And now one of the changes is we keep them out of cities. We keep them in very small areas and outside, not only like kind of main urban areas, but away from any potential infrastructure, potential military, or anything that could be considered of potential danger. So a lot of these places are places that are so small, they're not even on the map. And they never have seen war. Nothing has come through, and they really don't see it any other way than on television. They have all the utilities and have had no interruptions. Some of our families have bought generators for their surrogates, again, to make sure that if something happens in the future, if they are blackouts, they would have that. Most of our surrogates already, because of where they live in the country, have like water heaters and things like that that are off the grid or not connected to the standard system. What has not changed? The availability of surrogates. We're still seeing as many surrogates that are necessary. We're still matching them generally within a month of having your biological material tested or ready to go. And we test them all the way to the end. And this can be difficult to understand because we have had some experiences where that test to the end has, even in the last few moments, caused us to back out of a transfer. We will just never compromise your embryo. Just because we do this crazy amount of testing does not mean that we don't have enough surrogates. And we test them all the way through. It takes about 3 months. And like we said at the beginning, the first part is psychological and character. Who are these people? Are they responsive? Are they positive? Are they good people. Do they have a support system? Do they have mothers, fathers, husbands, best friends that are going to be with them and hold their hand through this process, that are going to support them when they're pregnant? We don't want them cooking, really cleaning, any of that. So we want someone that's going to take care of them. They should also be people that support the pregnancy. So they are totally happy and supportive of having, being a surrogate. That's very important. We would never take anyone who doesn't have one. We like older women to be surrogates because they have older children. This is important because they're not running around after them, and because they don't have to lift them. We never, never, never want them to have to lift anything. That can cause issues. So we have one of the changes we made since the war, since the worst part and during the war now, is we have offered parents to move the surrogates. Because of where we searched for them and because of where they live, very few have taken us up on this, but some have moved them to the Lviv area, the surrounding Lviv area, Zhytomyr area. And we're working right now on moving some to Slovakia. Some of our best doctors have moved to a clinic we like in Slovakia, and we'd very much like to offer that option for people that are very concerned about being in Ukraine at all. We still have the Polish option. However, we find that the women, because of the difference in culture, can find it very difficult. So we'd much rather, if we can, have them in Ukraine, and after that, Slovakia. We very much believe in a relationship with your surrogate. Of course, it's your choice. We don't want to force this on you, but it's your child. We'd like you to be part of their life for the first 9 months. And we do that by setting up groups where you can chat, send pictures, things like that. We send you heartbeats. We encourage you to send sounds around. If you have a dog, read books to your child, all of that. They listen, they hear at a very young age, so the surrogate can play all of that. It's good for bonding too. We go to every single meeting, and we think that that's essential for your communication. And like what we talked about at the very beginning, this level of trust, but also this level of being as intimately involved as possible. So going to all those meetings, our surrogate mother coordinators are all ex-surrogate mothers, and having them there at every meeting, taking pictures of them, taking videos of the ultrasound, taking pictures of what's going on, all of that, and the reports come back to you. And if there are any issues, we only represent you. We're not going to hide them. We call you immediately, no matter what it is, from a stubbed toe to a potential cold, if someone loses their voice, anything like that, even the littlest things, we're on it. And we're asking the questions. If you probably had this in your own experience, where you have a doctor saying, "Oh, everything's fine, everything's fine." If we think everything is not fine, it's very easy to, and we'll get a second opinion, because, or a third, because we do not believe everything is fine is a good answer. If a surrogate has a little bit of pain here or there, it can't be ignored. It just can't be brushed off. It's our job to make sure that that does. We want to protect your interest, your surrogate, and your child, and make communication such a way that you feel as much as possible like you're in that room, sending information back, and as much as you want information to her. What hasn't changed? The transportation of biological material. Even before this, before COVID, all of our biological material, except for just a handful of clients, was sent through an international biological material shipping company. Reasons. It's to give sperm, mostly it's sperm, but they carry eggs, sperm, and embryos. But for sperm protocols, you want to give every 3 or 4 days. So coming would be a long trip. It's difficult to take that off from work, and traveling can be stressful and uncomfortable. It's much better to give in your own country. Embryos and sperm are extremely hardy. You're never going to see any degradation, or it's not going to get any worse, or there won't be any problems in shipping. Eggs are a little more fragile, but if they're cryopreserved well, generally we don't lose any. If so, you might lose one in the thawing process. But it's a matter of the sophistication of the freezing and the thawing. And this is something we coordinate with your lab to make sure things are done right. And we would, wherever you are in the world, we would let you know if we're uncomfortable with the way they're doing something, so that you could make a change. Because wherever you are, we think it's our responsibility to provide like a feedback so that you can make a more informed decision and help you through the process. Even if it's not the process that we're doing for you, it'll be the process that will lead to our work and our success for you. The biologic shipping, just so you understand, it's good for about 16 days. They don't use any, because of their licenses and whatnot, no x-rays, no anything like that, because that could disturb it. And everything is GPS tracked. I know some of you have had this experience. We set up little WhatsApp groups so you can follow your material around the world. It doesn't take a lot of days. It takes more time in just preparing the documentation, and we facilitate all that. In terms of documentation, the documentation to start surrogacy in Ukraine has not changed, so we're happy for that. No changes there. All your rights regarding the power of attorney, let me explain. There are a lot of documents and approvals you need to sign, which embryo to transfer, you know, to sign the surrogate mother contract, which surrogate mother you are choosing, which donor you're choosing if that's involved, and many, many other things. So instead of you coming over to do all these, what we do is we have a power of attorney, but that power of attorney is limited by your giving us written permission. So for anything we do, we have to have you sign off on it legally through, we'd use like a DocuSign official legal document signing program electronically. So you will have authority over every single decision that's made. And that's important for us and for you, so that you know exactly what's being done, and we can't do anything without that written permission. You only have to come once. That hasn't changed. You only have to come when you are picking up your child, greeting them into the world. If you want, for those of you that would want, we would welcome you with open arms to come over for one of the ultrasounds. Some have come over just to spend time with their surrogate, whatever you feel comfortable with. So that is great. Timing. If you want to be there for birth, and most couples do, please, please, please do not ask us the exact day of birth. Just like in a normal pregnancy, we cannot predict this. I wish we could, but we don't have a crystal ball. When they're about 2 months before birth, they move close to the facility. At that point, we will be watching them very, very closely. Most couples now are flying into Warsaw or Krakow and staying into Krakow and coming in before the birth. We try to give enough notice so that you're there a number of days before, because we've had very few couples that don't want to be there at birth. And then you can come, we help you with accommodations. We recommend you take a private car. They're $300, and I use the service. We all use the service. It's really comfortable. And when you go, they're experts so that you don't have to go in lines. Taking your child back, you can skip the entire line. Newborns get lucky and you go to the front of the line. So you won't have any delay at borders. I'm sure some of you have heard some horror stories. When you come and meet your child, you as the mother will be able to be in the room. You poor fathers have to wait next door. As the mother, as the biological mother, you can cut the umbilical cord and the child is given directly to you for skin-to-skin contact. Then you get to go next door and meet your husband. And after that, they kind of whisk him or her away to be cleaned up and do a lot of tests so to make sure that just everything is absolutely perfect. You'll stay in the hospital with your newborn for about 3 days. There are beautiful rooms that you'll have with a private bath, and also have a cot for the child, like one of those rolling ones. And you have nurses that will come in and teach you what you need to know to raise a newborn, changing Pampers, feeding, burping, everything you'll need to know as a new parent. We love it. There's even an emergency call button. So if there's something happening and you really need help, you can just ring that and you'll have emergency service, even if you can't make your child stop crying. During that technically, we're not supposed to, do the documents, or it's hard to do the documents until after the child is released from the hospital. But we have been working so that you'll have all the documents before you get out, except for you'll have to go for, no, even that we've been doing, you leave for an hour and do the birth certificate. One of the great changes that has happened is that they're now having many less, there's far less time to get out of Ukraine. We've had many parents go directly from the hospital, jump in their private car, and out they go. It's about an hour and a half to the border. And we are able, this is great, we're able to do all the documents you need as if it was before the war. So we prepare an entire package of documents for you. You go to Warsaw and you present them to the embassy, and they say, we love this, and we start the passport. Most countries need to do DNA samples. This will slow you down because they have to do the swab for you and your child. They have to send it, because they don't believe in any Polish clinics. They have to send it to the home country. So that's an actual physical shipping. We've partnered with clinics who do it the fastest, 24 hours, and for whom the embassy will take email results. So that will speed it up at least 4 days. So looking at Warsaw, you're looking at a period of time for, I would say, 7 to 10 days. And you're going to say, why is this? Because it all happens so fast. The problem is weekends and holidays. Depending on when you go, both the clinic in the US the testing facility in the US, the embassy in Warsaw, and the embassy in Warsaw takes weekends, US holidays, or German holidays. They also take Polish holidays. So all of these things can slow it down. We make those appointments for you when the child is born, so that hopefully you can be right there in line and don't have to make an appointment when you get there. So that's been a really positive change. And I have to address, it's like our kind of, everyone asks, is the power outages and the electricity issues. Mostly that is in, well, cities and smaller cities, which is one of the reasons we try to keep our surrogates out of those areas. At this point, they present people with lovely charts of when that's going to happen, so you can prepare. And when we move our surrogates, we do want them to Lviv for birth. We do want them to have generators so that they can have that backup, so that they never go without. And all of those are strong enough that they can have everything they need: water, heat, refrigerator, hot water. And so they'll never have any of those problems. So all in all, there's been some things that have changed. And I think, again, the most dramatic has been some of the management changes, the doctors moving around, and the staff. And I think one of the things about the staff that's really important is for some of the bigger clinics or hospitals, they've lost drastic amounts of staff because they've left the country in the early parts of the war, and many of them have not come back. This has caused a lot of organizational issues. And this has been something we've been very much looking at, and one of the reasons we have left several facilities. You cannot have documents go astray, you cannot have things be slowed down, and you cannot have, well, the biggest problem we have is just the documentation has to be kept perfectly. We keep copies of everything, but still you need to have everything perfect. And if you're dealing with a different person every time you come in, it's just not efficient or effective, and it's not professional, and it doesn't lead to good results. So this is very important to us to have. And this is one of the reasons we don't work with staff that often. We work directly with the doctors. So when we're having questions like about your embryo transfer, we're not going to the reception area. We're not going to coordinators. We're calling the doctor. And this is something that we believe in and we do regularly. This is just the way delivering dreams works. And it's important also that we're not going to the lab technicians or the, what do you call it, vice doctor, I don't even know what to call them. But in a group of doctors, you'll have people that are less experienced and people that are more. And we work with the name on the door. We're dealing with the highest up, most experienced people. And everyone we're working with has worked abroad, trained abroad in the West, and has amazing reputations outside of Ukraine as well. One of our doctors was actually flown to America recently to do an embryo transfer. So we're very excited about the people we work with, and that we have multiple people that we work with, doctors and staff, which allows us the opportunity, God help us, if something were to happen, to move surrogates to safety and still not compromise the success and their safety. So we always have a backup. So with us, it's not just a job, it's a passion. I think I said at the beginning, I had to send a couple of our employees on a weekend holiday. They had their for some of you that know, Oksana had her birthday and she had all these things she wanted to do this weekend, and you have to like force them to take a holiday because they like their work so much, which is wonderful and joyful. And we love to celebrate your highs and cry with you if something doesn't work. We make money when you're successful. We lose money when your transfers don't work. We believe that's the only way to be fair and for us to be with you through this whole journey. You're each individual people. We have never, ever seen the same situation twice. And so it's important that you're working with someone from the beginning to the end at Delivering Dreams that can work with the right professionals, even if that means multiple professionals, to get the information they need to share with you so that we can make an informed decision about, say, what to do next, which embryo. There are so many choices that go through, but to help you make that choice, because I would bet no one on this call has gone through surrogacy process already. And so so you don't know everything. And we want to make sure that you know the things that you don't know and help you through that whole process. So from making sure you do your documents so that you have them done not only at the beginning, but help you. We need those all done perfectly so that you can get out. Helping you with the shipping process, doing all the documentation for that, and finding a donor, matching you with a surrogate, IVF with ICSI. We believe in pre-implantation genetic testing. It's included in all our programs. That's testing your embryos, all 24 chromosomes, for any genetic abnormalities. We find it prevents miscarriages, and of course, you're sure that you have a healthy child. Then by the way, we do use NGS, new generation screening, which is the highest standard for genetic testing before of embryos. All the way through, helping you through the birth and all the documentation, not only in Ukraine, but in Warsaw, to make sure things go well through that whole process. So I think I probably said everything that I can help you. Yvonne or Anshut or anyone, questions or things I could talk more about or should? Okay, I'm talking too fast.
So Susan, just one question about the surrogates. You talked about moving them, and obviously it's heartwarming to see that, given the situation, you're looking after them. Did the families of the surrogates move? Because I imagine that if I were a surrogate and I was moved to Lviv, but my family and husbands were still wherever they lived, that could cause stress. What did you do and how did you manage that? Because I imagine not all families wanted to move.
We offered them, we believe that they should move with anyone they want to move because they still should have the support. So at any time when we move anyone, we offer them to have someone with them. All surrogates have to legally have a child born naturally. So many of them might want to bring that child with them. This is also at the end of the pregnancy when we move them. We're not moving them to a dormitory. We move them to really nice apartments, and they're also, they can bring someone with them. Now, like you said, not always everyone wants to bring one. We had someone now that is like, dang, no, I don't want my child around. I want a holiday. She's like, I really don't want to have to think about it. And there is a difference between, less in Europe, but more in kind of America and Canada, where they think about the nuclear family as being like really, really important. And in Ukraine, it's a little bit more extended. So often the children will spend, you know, several months a year with grandparents or aunts or uncles. So many of them are very comfortable, you know, with the children spending some time there. But like you said, or like I said earlier, it's what they want. We cannot force them to take their family, but we can offer them. Some of them take us up and move 5 people, you know, their children, their husband, their mother, and some people don't. If they're all on their own, then we generally will match them with another single surrogate. Well, excuse me, someone who's there on her own, just so it isn't lonely in a new city. So that's what we do, because like you said, it's important that they're able to, you know, be comfortable and have the care they need, mostly emotionally. But remember, they all have phones, and thank goodness, you know, everything, you know, it's such a modern country. They all have phones and internet and all that stuff. So, you know, they're in touch all the time. But that's a really good point. And even when we moved to Poland, we took some families. That is a really great question. Someone just asked what happens with a premature birth in Poland or Slovakia. Our really happy news is, in all our history, the earliest birth we've ever had, and it was with twins, was 36 months. And the key to this has been just keeping on top of them. Oh, that sounds horrible. Keeping the medical care and watch on them, so much so. It sounds crazy, but babies just don't pop out. There's signs of how the uterus is reacting and where the child is. So we've never had anyone go into you know, premature labor in any other country, or really anywhere else we didn't want them to. And if we're moving them back 2 months before, in general, I think I'm trying to think, we kept one surrogate for a really long time. So maybe a month and a half before, but still she was not ready. And what we do in these places, I mean, we love them, we trust them, but we always like double verify. So Poland and Slovakia, the doctors there, I mean, like I said, the doctors in Slovakia are ones that we've worked with for a long time, and some of the ones in Poland have also come, so there's been like an exchange. But in any case, we still refer to several doctors to look over what everyone is doing in Slovakia and or Poland, so that there's what's the right word, a check, there's so that we're checking on both to make sure, double sure that nothing's happening. So that's been the way it works, and we've been very, very careful, and if there's any question, we would move them. We've had a lot of people, this is, I mean, it's a very valid question. It's one we're asked by really every parent. And some parents, I think, do think that they can just, you know, pop out, and they really don't. There are signs and symptoms and whatnot. And a key to that also is having surrogates that are calm and positive and in touch with their body. And not afraid to ask questions, or very not hesitant to say. So if they have like, you know, a funky pain, or their stomach hurts, or their shoulder hurts, whatever it may be, that they call immediately. And we're in touch with them every day, but we don't want people that are shy or hesitant to say something. And that adds another level of information to make absolutely sure. So thank goodness, even with twins, 36 weeks has been our lowest. The majority of them are 38, 39. a standard pregnancy would be 39 to 41. We generally wouldn't go to 41. A lot of the children get big. So, Yvonne, what are some of the other questions we're asked many times?
For example, what happens with premature birth in Poland or Slovakia? What happens in case?
Okay, I just went, yeah, we just discussed that. I'm
Yeah.
trying to think of some of the other questions that are very important throughout the process.
So one question, Susan, obviously given, it's still ongoing and I've taken advice from the Foreign Commonwealth Office. I think from my perspective, and it's great because you do talk a lot about the surrogates, which is because ultimately they are women. It's not just a business. They are, risking their lives to have babies for strangers such as, everyone here. That's what it is. But you talk a lot about looking after them. Do you look now to have surrogates in the west of the country? Because if they're nearer the border, there's less upheaval from being away from their families. If their families were residing in the west and southwest, do you see where I'm coming from?
Well, since 2014, when Russia invaded the East, we've never been taking any surrogates from the real East. That has been completely out of the question. So now the only difference really is that we're looking not only a little bit more in the West and Central, but we're very, very much looking for out of cities. And so we wouldn't want someone in downtown Kiev. Not that we don't think it's safe at times, but because we don't want you to worry about it. And we want like the ultimate safety for our surrogates. And yes, they are more in the central and western part of Ukraine now. But I want to speak to the first part of that they're risking their lives. Most of these surrogates, no, our surrogates are really highly educated. I mean, we're dealing with engineers. One of them is a human resource manager. We're just working for a big company. We will not work. We can't work with. One of the myths is that they're very poor. If you're very poor, you cannot maintain a nutrition and health throughout your life. And you can't be healthy all of a sudden, oh, I'm going to be healthy in the first 6 months, and then I'm going to be a surrogate. Because it shows in your teeth, it shows in your bones, it shows everywhere. And those are all tests we do. So we know we have to visit their home. We have to see who they live with, where they live. Do they have enough space? Is it a healthy environment? It's all great if they don't smoke, but what if they're, the people there smoke and they have fights and get drunk? We can't have any of that. So these are not poor women. They have nice places to live. They have jobs. Next question you're going to ask is, do they give up their jobs? And yes, we insist that everyone give up their job. What was I going to say? So they are not poor. This is like a thing people ask a lot, and it can't be. They just can't be, because they wouldn't meet the requirements. So these are not people that I would say, hi, I'm risking my life to do this. They're coming in knowing everything about it very clearly. We have them speak with independent lawyers. We have them speak with ex-surrogates. We want to make sure that they're as informed as possible. And this is for everyone's security. It's for them, and it's also for you, because we want to make sure that they are going into this for all the right reasons. And yes, they want to do something with the money that they're going to make. We pay them $24,000, which is, I don't know, 6 or 7 times the annual salary. But they're giving you something extraordinary. And really part of our mission, or inherent in our mission, is that you're giving them something extraordinary. So most of these women will go on to give private education to their children and buy a new house or apartment, and, get a car, start a business. So they're able to do amazing things. A lot of them may be single or in a civil marriage, and they can kind of start their new family. But I would say that they don't feel in any sense like they're risking their lives. A lot of them feel that they're actually enjoy pregnancy. I mean, we would never take anyone that, they have to have had a safe, happy pregnancy with their child or former surrogacy. So if they didn't, and we interviewed the people around them, it's too dangerous. It's just ruled out. No way, no how. So they know what we're getting into. And the other thing is there's a really close network of surrogates. Just like there are chat groups online for parents, there are tons of chat groups for women, ex-surrogates, and they all chat about their experience. And so we're proud that they come to us because, and they say, I had a really bad, thing at this agency. I had 2 transfers, and I think I had to, you have to go on all this medication. I think they were just doing it over and over and over to charge the parents more, but it was, it was terrible on my body, and I don't trust them. And so it's what the surrogates are saying about the care that we give them. And that's before and during and after pregnancy. And so I think that level of care is one of the reasons they come to us, but so they're not, if we thought that there was any way that they would be risking their lives, we would, there would be some kind of pre-existing condition. And with over 50 tests, and we only take about 1 in 40, we better catch it. And sometimes, I think I mentioned, it's a horrible thing, but because we keep testing and testing and testing, we have had a couple situations where really, like the day before the transfer, the doctor's like, I'm not 100% on this, her uterine lining. And we go, forget about it. And it makes the parents go crazy. But, we say, would you rather, start, I don't want to say lose an embryo, but would you rather try when the doctor himself is saying this isn't very good, and go through another loss, or wait a month or 2 for us to retest or test again and make sure that there's another person. If we're changing a surrogate before when we're doing a transfer, if we change her before transfer, we do that at no cost. Because it's no one's, it's not, it's not even her fault, right? She's been taking all the medicine, but sometimes, the medicine, I think a lot of you have gone through IVF probably more times than you can count, but sometimes your body reacts differently to different medicines. And we don't want to compromise on that. We've also had it happen with donors. Where everything is perfect, everything is great, the follicular reserve is great, everything is fine, and the doctors are saying, we're just unhappy about the quality. Now, keep in mind, in any of these situations, we're not saying goodbye, see you later, because they need a lot of medical care and, again, more medicines to take them down off where they are so that they can be healthy. So it isn't just like, oh, you failed, bye. We have to spend a lot of time and energy, money, and whatnot, medical care, to make sure that they get to back down to where they were in a healthy way, so that they can have children and not have any after effects. And this is one of the terrible things we saw during the worst part of the war. And, we see a lot of agencies now saying, oh, we stayed. But we spent once our surrogates were all, accounted for and safe, we spent a ton of time putting surrogates together, trying to find their biological parents, because the agency had left or hadn't been in contact with them for weeks. And many clinics don't put the parents, don't let the parents meet the surrogates. We're so proud of our surrogates, and they're so happy to be surrogates. When we ask them, we say, would you like a relationship? They're like, yes, we would love that. We would love to know where this person is. As soon as you come up with a name, they call the child the name. So we're very proud of them. We have nothing to hide. They have nothing to hide, which is why we have and encourage that relationship. Of course, we do not force it on you. And it's only what you feel comfortable with. And we explain to you kind of how we try to educate you on the best way to do that so it can be a successful relationship. But during the war, but the worst part of the war, there were many surrogates that were left without medicine. And because they had never been in contact with their biological parents, they could not find them. So we were putting on chat groups, there's Tatiana, she was working with this agency, she's 3 months pregnant, her parents are French, as much information as we can possibly get, and trying to match up. And we did a pretty good job, but it took a world community to try to get that done. So trying to think about the most asked questions.
Susan, this is Jan. I actually have a question. If I got it right, we can pick up our child in Lviv, right? Do we have to go to Kiev to the embassy to sign any kind of documents?
No, all the embassies now, even there are a few that have opened in Kyiv, but they're purely like symbolic. There's nothing going on there. So from any country, from Germany, US, any country, we give you all the documents in Lviv. And we try to do that, and we've been successful in doing that while you're in the hospital. And then you would go to Warsaw and finish that process to get your child's passport. And we would help you with that. We would walk you through that.
And will it be like this over the next few months, or?
You're asking the crystal ball?
Yes, I am.
Well, right now, I think this is as bad as it gets, because right now they're not here. I think that the best situation is in 9 months, we have them back in Lviv, at least, the embassies or consulates.
Okay. Yeah.
So that then they could do some documents there, and it would spare you some time in Warsaw.
Okay.
But as we have it now, and see, even during the very bad times in February and March, we were still getting all the documentation.
All right, good to know that. Thank you.
The other thing is, some people are very nervous about coming into Ukraine at all. And we have, this sounds horrible, delivered like a little stork, babies over the Polish border. So that is an option as well. And I don't know if I mentioned, you do have to come only once. If you're welcome to come other times, but you don't have to come more than once. And we help you with all the logistics and what you need to get and what you don't need to bring. You need to bring almost nothing. There's everything there. The stores are completely stocked. There's tons of child's Pampers. They have them a store right at the hospital. So they have almost everything.
Do you know what the average waiting time at the border is right now? Because we read some horrible stories about couples waiting 20 hours at the border.
Well, they don't know what they're doing. There's zero wait if you're going out with a newborn. And coming in, I've always asked the driver, because they're experts at this, what time do I have to need to leave? And depending on what day of the week it is, he was like, okay, well, this is the best time. And we were the first car. Well, we didn't even have to wait. There were no cars there.
Okay.
So it was really minimal. Now, I didn't have a newborn coming out each time. So when I came out, it probably was a 2-hour wait. I slept. But I couldn't go to the front of the line, unfortunately.
Mhm.
And
Thank you,
most of them,
Susan.
what?
Thank you.
You're welcome always. And we're excited to say that we had a transfer this morning. So we're celebrating that.
Which one do you mean?
I don't know. I can't say.
Oh, okay.
Oh, you guys. So I think that the biggest thing we celebrate, I don't know, Yvonne, Anton, but my biggest excitement is when they're pregnant. We very, very rarely have miscarriages. So that's kind of when I'm most excited. Especially, I mean, that's why we really demand PGD testing, is because of the amount of success. So we haven't had one waiting time for a surrogate. It's a great question. Right now, when your biological material, we have it like tested, generally it's no more than a month. And the reason for that is we have to do the last bit of testing again. The interesting thing to know is that when the last test is done, and a lot of this testing isn't done by anyone else because it's a little, I mean, it's not, I don't want to say it's overwhelmingly expensive, but it's a little pricey for Ukraine. And a lot of people say it's not necessary, but we like it. It has eliminated some people, so I think it's worth it for us to do. And when they're done, so this approximately month, then you will have very little time to make a final decision, because where she is in her menstrual cycle is going to be almost where she needs to start. So it will be kind of like 48 hours, and we don't like it really because it feels like we're pushing people, but we make sure to prepare you in advance for this. So when we have a perfect surrogate, we try to, we have in the past matched surrogates with people really the first time. We've only had a couple that had kind of bizarre requirements about exactly where they wanted them to live that were a little bit hard, because we can't guarantee when someone from exactly that place will be available. I mean, it can be, that's pretty hard. And we had one that couldn't make up their mind, and then by the time they chose, the woman was already like, well, I don't know, something ridiculous like 12 weeks pregnant. Why is it about a month? The reason is that we have to retest them. So I hope I got that German right. Once they're ready, I mean, we have them all tested, but things can happen. And so when your material's there, like your embryos are all happy, tested, ready to go, we finish we redo the last tests. We want to make absolutely sure that nothing has changed. And so yes, we're sorry. I mean, sometimes we've had someone ready. We've had someone ready immediately. I think we've had that just because we had a bunch of people in testing. It just fell in that way. And sometimes we have that happen, and sometimes we don't. But we don't want you to be misled and think that we're going to have someone the next day. I need a translation because I don't think I got the translation right. Oh, woe is my German. Did I tell you guys I studied eight years of German?
Yes, we know that.
It's terribly embarrassing. Okay.
Susan, we have one more question. How difficult would be for the surrogates to enter or come to the United States for giving the birth?
Absolutely impossible. The U.S. is very firm in terms of who they give visas to, and in addition to that, it's prohibitively expensive, and they don't want to leave. We just had a great question about when we move surrogates to Lviv or Poland or Slovakia, do they take their families? And Slovakia and Poland are close. If you don't know, right now, men are unable to leave Ukraine. It's the law there. So they do not want to leave their fathers, sons, and husbands behind. Slovakia and Poland are far away enough. Within Ukraine, they have the opportunity to move with them. So in addition to the law being almost impossible, and visas are not given out. They're not given out really at all these days. 2, they don't want to go. And 3, it makes no financial sense. If you want to do it there, the cost of paying the surrogate there is going to be the cost of paying a surrogate in the US. The cost of doing the medicine is going to be the cost of doing the medicine there. So if you want to do surrogacy in the US, do surrogacy in the US, because they were paying them $24 for doing it in Ukraine. To move to another country, it was already like $40. So, it's the same as what you're looking at in the US. And then I remember this, they have 0 insurance. So everything's going to be out of pocket unless you have some, amazing plan that I've not seen. I hope that answers the question. I know people want absolute security, and we get this question a lot, even, to move to Canada, to move to Germany. And really, those are the same answers. They don't want to go. The money is going to be prohibitively expensive. And in terms of the US and Germany, they're not letting them in. And with a child, they also can, it's a fine line for them with child trafficking, and it just gets really dicey. But moving to the West and moving to either Poland or Slovakia, they're very safe. They haven't seen anything. I mean, if you're to that level of concern. But, we'll work with you on getting a place that's comfortable for you. It must be someplace that we are confident and work with the medicine. Because we've looked a lot at Georgia for like 5 years. And we were very uncomfortable with the medical facilities and the level of care, and in a way, even the ethics. And a lot of clients we've seen when the war started switched over to Georgia programs. And, I'm sure this isn't for everyone. Nothing, I mean, things go great for people no matter where they are. But we have at this point seen a lot of people come back and approach us because they have had a lot of problems there. A lot of things that don't make sense, like double ectopic pregnancies and, 7, huge amounts of transfers and stuff that, they just don't make sense. So they've come back. And so we have people that have been doing that from other countries. We had a program that we were working with Albania, and we have now canceled that facility. Well, that sounds like a horror, but we've now not working with that facility because of a lot of the reasons we said we rule out other facilities. And that's because they got overwhelmed. They weren't taking care to the level that they should. and the communications became terrible. So we would be in the room standing up lovingly, jumping up and down to make sure we got the best care. And, we weren't getting, we needed the very best doctors. The very best doctors were flying around the world giving conferences. And we're not going to go with, the others. We want to work with, we wanted to work with the head. And that's why we were there. So, Yvonne, before we shut off, anything else that is asked a lot? Trying to think.
Well, I do not even know because most of questions you answered already.
Well, it was a pleasure. I really hope that the German was helpful. I wish, I hope that mine gets better, so that in the future I'll be able to speak more more directly. One of my other staff studied German forever too, and hers is rusty too, but we're both trying to shake it up. But Anschut is fantastic, and he's working with us on everything. So thank you all for being here. I know it's a big step. There's never a good time to start in your journey, never. But we encourage you to think about it, because the years go by, and first there was COVID, first is this. You never know what's going to happen. And Ivan is putting his finger up, or no?
Yeah, Susan, sorry for interrupting. We have a new question about our donors.
Donors.
Yeah, how many donors do we have
Okay.
now?
We have a lot of donors, but we don't do what other agencies do. We don't have this like donor database. And sometimes people are like, why? You probably don't have donors. No, the problem is that donors aren't always available. They commit to people, and they travel out, they migrated, or they just gave 1 month ago. So there are like all these factors. So if you're looking for a donor, if we opened it up, and we've thought about this so many times over the years, people look and they say, oh my God, we love this donor. She's the best in the world. And then we check into everything. And by the way, all of our donors are tested unless they're known donors. I guess I'll explain that in a second. That person has already been taken, or she just gave, or she's traveled. Things change so frequently with donors that we really need to check on each one. So the way we work is we get the characteristics you have, and we send the best ones we think are good matches to you right away, and we keep on sending until you're happy. Our donor profiles have all the data you'd want: age, hobbies, education, health history. We like to include a picture of the child so that you can see what they looked like when they were a child, natural hair color, eye color, all of that. We also have, you should know that it's important to know that all donors in Ukraine are meant to be anonymous. So those that want to be, or okay with being known or sharing their identity, they generally, no, they will ask for additional money. But those people will do videos of themselves. They can, meet you. We had one client that wanted them to do an IQ test. So there's a lot of more ability there. With what we call known donors, elite donors, VIP, you can call it what you want. So we've never not been able to match a donor ever. And that includes all nationalities. Yvonne can attest, he's a pretty major successful donor matcher. we keep working with you. And generally it happens relatively fast. We try to get a really good sense of what you want and provide that to you. So it's not a catalog. And we do test them right up until the end, like with surrogates, because we want to make sure that everything's all right up until the end. And we don't like our donors to give more than 3 times in their life. We found that that really decreases the quality of their eggs. So, Yvonne, why don't you put like contact information and everything? I'm sure you'll have questions afterwards. Don't hesitate to reach out. We'll put this up on Skype just with me, and you can feel free to share it. Thank you all for being here. And I hope it was a big help. I welcome you all to reach out and ask lots of questions. There's a lot of uncertainty, especially because of the changes in doctors and management and standards, and a lot of disappointment at results. You know, we've heard this from a lot of couples. We have been very successful since the war. Everyone's pregnant except for one. And it was someone that decided to do another IVF cycle because they wanted to get a different gender. So we're all excited about the future, and I'm hoping to go over soon again. And you know, like I said, time goes by. So if you're hesitant, you know, think about it, and we'll be happy to work with you about all the risks. And again, explain how we're really in it with you, and you're the only ones, you, your child, and your surrogate are the only ones that we really answer to and care about. The rest of them, we can, the doctors, we can lovingly force to treat you, your surrogate, and your child as if they were the most important thing in the world, because to us and to you, they are. So thank you all. Looking forward to meeting you. Bye.